Okay, well, thank you so much for being here, and I want to just thank Music YYC for putting on Sound Off to educate artists and to showcase up-and-coming artists. It's pretty incredible. As we all know, we all need as much help as we can get to keep art going, so that's unreal. And so thanks a lot to ATB for hosting this for us, too. It's really great. So today we're going to be talking about making music videos, and it's an incredibly powerful tool when it comes to being an artist, a musician, but also what we're going to probably talk a lot about today is how powerful of a tool it is for videographers and artists to showcase who they are and tell their stories too. So I'm going to just introduce everyone here on the panel. I'm Brock Mitchell. I'm a local filmmaker here in Calgary and do music videos, so I know which hard questions to give these people. This is Brieanne Mikuska. She's an artist, an illustrator. Kevin Kirkpatrick with Different Alphabet Productions. Gabriel Yee with 403K Films. And Asim Overstands. Do you have a production company name, or does it just go by you? Madonna. So I'm going to start off super easy, and I just want to get all the panel's perspective on what is a music video and what do you think it can be used for.
Hello, I'm Brieanne. I'm a little bit sick, so sorry about that. What was the question?
What is a music video and what can it be used for?
A music video. I think a music video is supposed to be used to showcase art and the musician themselves, but I think it's got to captivate the viewer overall. Like, obviously you don't want to hire somebody to make something for you that isn't going to do its job very well. But I mean, for me personally, when I make music videos, like, I want it to be super fun and crazy. Like, no boring music videos allowed.
I think for me, it kind of just taps into like a more philosophical thing, like it's just a point of expression, like it's just another artistic expression. So, but at the end of the day, it is like a promotional material, so you kind of can't lose focus when you are making it. That's my answer. And it's got to be exciting and captivating, and yeah, it's got to be something that you're expressing.
I think if music is the audio representation of an artist, music video is the visual representation of either the artist or a song. I think how it should be used, or how it could be used. I think first and foremost is the expression of that song, but also its content. And any artist knows the more content you have, the more people see you.
I agree with Gabe that it is a visual representation of the artist and how they want to be portrayed, as well as the song, of course, to be married together, to their fans.
So before we keep going here, I just want to give, by a sign of hands, who here is a musician in the house? Nice, okay, great. Who here wants to make music videos outside of being the musician? Because obviously musicians want videos, but is there any up-and-coming filmmakers or people wanting to make more music videos? Okay. Okay, great. Okay. Okay, well that's great, because I think what's important is it's a two-way street with music videos, right? Is obviously musicians want to be showcased and we want to create content, but the filmmakers have something to say too, and that's why we get excited to jump on these things. So I think that's going to help us in terms of our perspective today, is just knowing who we're speaking to, because it's one thing to give advice on how to make videos, but now if we're talking to more musicians in the house, we can talk about how can we better collaborate. So that's just, everyone keep in mind, we're talking to a lot of musicians here. So let's talk about everyone's approach. We got quite a wide gamut of people here on the panel in terms of their approach and what they bring to music videos. So I want to get a good sense of how people get started and maybe what drew you to music videos in general and what your process is. Like, what do you where's your base? Where do you start?
Okay, so I find with animation specifically, I do stop motion animation. It takes a lot of time and effort, but an easy answer to say is what draws me to music videos is I don't have to do sound production for my animations. You know what I mean? Because sound production sucks for me. Like, I'm not a musician, and I like having a vessel with like the artists where I get to create something based off of their song. So like I'm inspired by their music. That's normally why I'm doing a music video for them. And just as much as they're choosing me, like I'm choosing them. So I find that when it does come to, I would say it's a collaboration between me as a filmmaker and animator and them as an artist. And so, yeah, I think that I never know where to look when I'm out here, you know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, I think I got out what I was saying. Was there any point? Thank you. Next.
Yeah.
Like the answer to the question was, I don't like doing the sound from and I like making stuff with them. So.
Perfect. To me, what draws me towards music videos is there's no rules, really. I remember being in film school and then being taught, here's how to light things, here's how to shoot things, here's how you do this. Oh, but with music videos, you could just do whatever you want. What I really enjoy is the collaboration, that what you said, and filmmaking is really collaborative art form, and I just really love connecting with the artist. And yeah, to your point again, like they choose me, but also I choose them, and I like to hear their music and what they have and their message, and what they have to say, and kind of conforming that and adapting it, and like what would be the visual version of what these people are trying to say and trying to do, and how can I do that as like an artist my way.
I think for me, I think normally what I typically do is if an artist like comes to me or I approach an artist, if he has a song in mind already, we'll kind of like sit on that song for a bit and like talk about concepts, we'll use like visual references, like whether it's movies or other music videos or YouTube videos or whatever. And then so like what I've normally done is I'll say, give the artist the chance to come with a concept, I'll come with my concept, and we kind of sometimes meet in the middle, and we either compromise or else sometimes I'm like, hey, your idea is better, or they might be my idea is better, so whatever it is. I think for me it's always like having a vibe with an artist, so that when you're making something, it's not just, you're not just slotting things in. Like when you're kind of creating like what it's gonna look like, what it's gonna feel like, it's like a representation of who the artist is and how you know that artist. So that when you're like, hey, well, we should do it here because this represents kind of part of this song or part of you or whatever, rather than, oh, is this a dope location, or is this a dope thing to shoot, or we should get like a bunch of girls in cars, like, you know, like it's so easy to go down these rabbit holes of like, oh, this is what everybody else is doing. And I think it really starts with the relationship between the director, I guess, and with the artist, because if there's no relationship and understanding of creative process, that actual creative process I feel like takes a lot longer. And I'm pretty sure we've all been in situations where, you know, you might start out like it's working out really great, and then halfway through you have completely different visions and you're kind of just mashing things together. So a lot of times, like, I've even told artists, I'm like, I kind of don't feel like this is the strongest song, so let's listen to what else you have. And then we'll listen to like things that are maybe still being tracked, or maybe things are getting mastered or whatever. And I might be like, hey, I feel like this song could get a lot of play, and I think the visuals could really work with this. What do you think? So I think it's a lot of open communication between the two people. And I don't think any two videos are the same. So every process is going to be different. Every creative process is going to be different.
I feel that everyone answers everything that's in my mind, and I'm the last in line. So I don't know. Yeah, sorry, I have nothing new to say here, but
We'll talk about like,
yeah.
so everyone comes with a very different skill set and the way that they've actually even got into music videos in the first place. So maybe right now, Asim, as we come back this way, talk about where you started out as and what you bring. Because I find that through your photography, you have a very personal connection with people in a very different way where, you know, over on this side of the table over here with me, coming from a narrative side, I'm trying to tell a story and then I try to find it to fit. Where I find with your work, what I see the most is you're able to bring out stuff out of people. So maybe just talk about like your process, where you come from, and that how you bring you into your work.
Sure. I think I don't know my point of view just yet. I'm still figuring that out. I think everyone is, but I started as a street photographer, and in order to capture someone honest and what you would look like on the street where you're walking, I only have 10 seconds with you. I don't try to plan some photo shoot, something. Let's do this. Let me just get you in your natural place. And how I found that out to come out in the music videos, I collaborate with my friend Vince Raquel here. I just would like to point that out, that I'm...
Open chair up here, Vince, if you want.
There's an open chair out here. Yeah, but what we both bring to the table here is... I think just coming in close. I think that's the one thing I would like to be, that guy who can bring the artist closer to the lens and let me try to show who you are, what you're about, and the direction you're going, hopefully, in that time, because that's it came from a photo. Shutter is so much easier to click than pre-production and shooting and then post-production. So one thing I've learned is that you do 3 movies or 3 videos in one shoot, because you have to shoot it on paper first, and that's planning it, and then you got to actually fucking go do it and shoot it and plan all that and have a crew, and you're usually wearing multiple hats, and then you got to go and post. It's so different than being a photographer where I can turn over. This is the one thing I'm learning, and I'm going in a full circle here, is that patience is required as a filmmaker or music video maker. There's no hard stops. There's no deadlines. It has to flow at a certain pace when photos come real fast. This is where I'm coming from. Yeah.
So like kind of an overarching theme I'm seeing in everyone, though, is obviously collaboration. And Gabriel, you brought it up with content, right? We're in the content game now, especially when it comes to music. And everyone's just got to pump this thing out as quick as possible. And so videos come with that, right? Deadlines get pressing and pressing. So Asim, what you just said, there's a lot to it. And collaboration takes a lot of work. And Brieanne, you can't do what you do overnight. No. It's literally impossible, unless they want just a flip book. Like
I can do some things overnight, but it's going to be like lazy animation. But you can do it. But it's crazy. It's like when they do the quick draw, the overnight film fest thing, where they lock you in there for like 2 days, and at the end you have to come up with a video. It's crazy. Everyone's crazy in there. Stop by sometimes.
So I'm going to give this right back to you, because what I want to ask of everyone now is, and you all kind of touched on it, is how early on when do you want to start working with this artist? Is it meet them on set and get to work, or like how do you want to build that relationship, and how does that differ between each of you?
I'm going to say, sorry, I'm going to cut in here real quick. I love working with an artist when they're writing the song. Yeah. Because I've been working with one guy out of Vancouver right now, and he's writing 3 songs right now, and he's been sending me bits and pieces of it. And he realizes that for him, at his stage in his artist career, in his words, he says, "My shit's got to be popping." So like he doesn't want to write something and be like, "Oh yeah, this is a great song, push it out." He wants to write something that can be married to visuals, so that the song and the visuals like have merit. And so he's been like, he brought me in early, and he's like, "How do you feel about working with me as I'm writing this song?" So I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And it's interesting because I I come from a musician background, so I've written music before and I know what that process is like. But to watch someone go through that process and you're kind of like sitting and waiting for bits of it to come to you, and then you're thinking about it visually, and he might give me like something visual, and I might give him something like visual as well. And so to be this early on is interesting, because it's you have a lot more creative freedom to think down the road and start planning down the road.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't think I've ever thought about starting so early on with somebody, but I find it's kind of difficult sometimes with artists, because they have the song that they have in mind that they want a video for, and then they bring it to you and they want their video. You know what I mean? Like, they're in their head, they're like, I'm gonna get a music video, and I'm like, okay, but this is gonna take me some time. Like, yo, chill, calm down. So it's nice when you, like, for me, I like to approach people that I want to work with. And I've had people come and want to work with me, and I'm like, I just don't think, like, it's a good person. Like, I'm not a good person for you, but I know other people I can connect you with. But yeah, for me, when I want to do a video for somebody, I got to be excited about it, because you have to listen to that song a million times. So if it's not a song that you like, don't make the video for it. Like, you have to be responsible as a person making the video. Money is great when you're getting paid. So if you want to do a video for somebody, approach it as if you're not getting paid any money and you're going to make a sick video, I guess. And maybe that wasn't really the answer to the question, but that was the answer to the question that I made up. So your turn.
What was the question?
Well, we're talking about how early on you want your relationship to start with an artist, but it's leading into almost your relationship with art in general, whether it's the video or the song, and how do you want to know them?
Yeah, your approach is quite interesting. Be there on the ground level. I usually, in the past, on my relationships of working with artists, is we just go for coffee and we just hang out a few times, and then I try to keep it organic, and especially like, I do a lot of corporate videos and stuff, and that's professional, and then that's boring, and I'd rather just connect with the artist as a person and as an artist. And yeah, and so I like to grow with the artist, and I like to find someone who's on like a comparable, career level, and so we can like push each other and make each other better. And yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I think we're married for a part-time little journey where we start with creative, if it's a song of yours, to delivery, because we're holding hands the whole way as filmmakers and as artists. And it's important that there's no egos as well attached to. I think that's something that comes up a lot, that someone has a point of view and it must be achieved, and I don't think that works. So even starting at the beginning, Bree, as she said, I turned down a lot. Because it's like, maybe I don't like the music, maybe I'm not the right fit for the project, and maybe I don't even have the time, to be honest with you, sometimes. And this is all honesty. This is a good collaborative way to go about it. And some people get butthurt with that, and I just, it's honesty, and you got to go every level of that, I believe. So.
And that was going to lead into, I mean, we're all talking about how early on and these long relationships we want to have, but I think for people in this room, they're going, well, I want to get a music video done. Well, who do I talk to? So this is not a wrap-up question at all, obviously, but it usually sounds like this way. But how do people get a hold of you, and like how does that communication start with an artist? What does that ground level look like? Do you wait for them to call you? It sounds like you almost seek them out. Like how does that start, and how does that work for everybody?
I think for me personally, I get approached a lot just in general to like make album covers or merchandise for people. And that's a lot easier for me to say yes to. But when it comes to music videos, I find like I'll make music videos for bands just because I want to make a video and I like this song, like at home by myself. So when I want to make a music video for somebody, I just ask them. When people ask me to make music videos for them, normally it's funding, like they don't have funding and they don't want to pay for it, and that's cool. But like if I'm gonna do something, like I mean that's like I get it, like I'm not gonna do it for them. But like I mean with animation, people don't understand. Like the last thing I made, it took 150 hours for 1 minute, and that was no post production. That was frame by frame, moving clay on a table. So yeah, for me, it's like I need to like the artist, and I seek them out normally, I find, for the most part.
Yeah, you're touching on one of my major gripes with the Calgary art scene is I find it's very siloed. There's so much art in the city, and there's so many artists all over the gamut, not just filmmaking and music making, and there's very few bridges in between. You just gotta, so the main resource, honestly, I would give to everybody is check out CSIF, M-Media, Quick Draw. These are all like film co-ops and film pools, and if you just contact those people, like any of the directors, they will hook you up with everybody. And you may be asking, what are those communities? Those are like the Calgary Society of Independent Filmmakers, and yeah, animators and video and film. So I have a lot of musician friends, and I go to a lot of shows, and I always, I'll invite them to screenings of my friends and like weird movies and stuff like that, and then they never show up. Like there's no cross collaboration, and so I think that's what it really comes down to is like you need to support other artists, not just musicians, and I think that's what it comes down to.
It's like networking.
Yeah, it's just networking, but yeah, going across, like go to the mediums, the fields that you don't know anything about. Because I'm not a musician, I don't play any instruments at all. Like when I talk to musicians, they speaking a different language, and I can only communicate with them on like their art form and like what they're trying to say. So the best way to do it is just I know it's kind of like the boring word, but networking, and just putting yourself in that outside that comfort zone. And yeah, not being afraid to go for a coffee and just like not cold calling, but cold DMing. Yeah, all about DMs. Yeah, and so that's what I would say. Just be a good person. Be interested in what their art form is too. And then sometimes I get artists who come to me and they just see me as like a content creator, and like I'm just gonna make stuff for them. And it's like, kind of to your point, I don't really have time to do stuff like that all the time. Sometimes it's nice to pay the bills, but if I want to put in 150 hours, like I got to really want to do it for you, the person.
I'll admit 100% of the music videos I've made, the artists have hit me up through DMs. Because I typically work more with artists who they're like, oh, I have like $500. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like I think for me, it's who I usually won't work with is if and we've all heard this before, like, oh yeah, like exposure, and I have like 10,000 followers, and I'm gonna talk about you, but like that doesn't mean shit. Like that, like, we don't care about that. But I really appreciate when the artists come to you and they say, hey, I've got X amount of dollars. I know it's not much, but if you're willing to work with me on this, I'd love to work with you. And I appreciate that because it shows a commitment from the artist side. It's not just they're trying to get something for free because they don't have time to do it themselves or they don't want to do it themselves. So I appreciate that, and I like working with artists because I think that it's easy for us on our end. For me anyways, sometimes I feel like we get very like, oh yeah, I only want to work with these artists because that's who I am. And so you leave this whole gamut of artists that are talented and that have great music and also deserve music videos. but because of our egos, we aren't willing to work with him. So I personally, I've only made like most of my videos are very low budget and very guerrilla style, but I really enjoy that because I love the challenge.
Yeah, I don't think music videos are meant to stack dough with. If you're, it's more of an art form, and it's compensating everyone's time. And, you know, I think that's how I viewed it. Kind of not new to it, but new to it. And the one thing I'm figuring out is it's. If I was you guys and the artists, I would just look at everyone's portfolio and see who you'd like to work with visually first, and then you just DM, email, whatever, and then sit down for a coffee and then chop it up, old school, you know, and that's as far as that goes. I think just take the leap. Who cares, you know, and just work. But yeah, I don't think anyone here. Most of us are. I get a lot of repeat business, I guess, is more often. I think that's probably most of us. We work with the same artists usually because there's a collaborative synergy, and you just got to find your synergy with one of us or all the other great filmmakers and movie makers and music video makers in the city.
Yeah, and it's really helpful when the artists have actually seen your work and they don't just come to you and say, "Hey, I want to make this, or I want to make this video that this other person did." It's like, "Hey, I only make my videos. Like I make it in my way." So actually look at their portfolio and dig deep a little bit. That is really helpful.
So it seems like have some creative compromise. Yeah. So when someone comes up to you, an artist, and they only have the $500, obviously it sounds like they shouldn't be scared to still make that phone call. But what are you looking for in this new climate where, we're not getting $1 million to make music videos anymore? I don't think many artists are. It is going to be the $500 range, self-financed, or the grant writing process. So what sort of conversations do you have in terms of that compromise, though? Because you're obviously going to be putting in way more sweat equity. So how do you approach it? Do you change your concepts? Do you change that relationship at all? How does that work?
For me, I think I have to just. It's kind of like making art in any way, where you go home and you paint something. Like you're not painting it for anyone except for yourself. So it's kind of the same thing with making the video. Like I have to be 100% okay with wanting to do this and getting zero in return, because it's kind of, at the end of the day, it's like your creative outlet. For me specifically, like I'm not sure if it's the same for shooting video, and because it's a little bit different, but it has to be like a project that I just want to make for myself. You know what I mean? When it comes down to money, when people are like, "Oh, okay, I want this. I only have $500." If I'm excited, I normally don't really care, and I never start talking about money until I'm like already working on the project, and I'm like, "Wait a second. Are we gonna do any money exchanging?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." Like I'm pretty easygoing when it comes down to that, because normally I'm not working on something because I'm getting paid. Like I just want to make it, and that it's as sad as it sounds, I'm just like, check out my video, like, yo, check out this video I just made. I'm just like more excited to show people, but yeah.
But does that change do you change your relationship with the artist? So it seems like obviously you're going to be invested in a different way, but does that change your communication with the artist at all, depending on budgets and how much you're bringing to the table?
I mean, yeah, I guess if it's for free, I might not go as hardcore as I would if they were paying me more money. You know what I mean? Because like I can, like something for me can never be done. Like I'm like the person who zooms in on like the last pixel of something and then nobody would ever see it. Like I can always put more time into something, whether it's like painting, or like I'm like, oh, okay, like I'll cut this part out of the video, like I'll make an animation that's stop motion, it's a little bit faster, and I'll have like pitched this one portion that'll be like all hand painting animation. I'll be like, we're cutting the hand painting out. Like that's gonna take way too long. So it's kind of like, for me, with when I'm working on a music video, it's got to be a little bit more loose though. Like when you have artists coming at you and they're like, this is my idea, I want to be in a car with a bunch of chicks and whatever. I'm like, okay, what is your concept? Give it to me in a sentence, and expect every storyboard I've made to change. But it'll look dope, I promise. That's me. Mine's like, that's kind of how it is. Like, nothing ever turns out 100% the way it's planned. And you have to be okay with room for experimentation, and like you guys said, like dropping the ego of yourself as an artist, because it is hard when you're like, no, that's a stupid idea and I have a way better one. Like, you can't just say that to someone. Well, I do, but like, I mean, I was
gonna say I've said that before.
I literally said that to people. I'm just like, that's a bad idea. Like, I'm not doing that. But like, I mean, as the relationship grows, that person knows you. It becomes a friendship, really. For me, like, a lot of things that I do are we become good friends after. So that's kind of, you have to be friends. Oh yeah, sorry.
So when someone comes to me and they say, oh, I've only got $500 or $100, I'll say, okay, well, we can still make it work. It'll just be not as elaborate as you think it is. And something I find super helpful when I'm dealing with clients is I do a cost breakdown, because something I've learned is musicians may not necessarily know where the money is going, or like why it costs so much, and like what's the difference between $500 and $100? It's like, okay, well, that's 20% of $500, so it just gets you less, and it's like, okay, still a good idea, we can still do it, just may not be, it's not going to be as high quality as you think it's going to be. And like I still want to do it, I still want to make it work, but here's what you can realistically expect. I don't want to promise the moon. You said something else. Okay, I was going to say something else. If it comes to me, I'll just grab a mic. So.
But we're also talking about how that conversation between you and the artist may change. Is it now, get out of my way, I'm going to just give you a video, it'll be in your hands in 3 months? Like, how does that relationship change?
It's so dependent. So it depends on a lot of things. Like, yeah, if it is just artist money, if it's just grant money, if there's any kind of deadline, if they have an album coming out, if they have a single coming out, it just depends. Yeah, it's to me, that's hard to answer.
I think for me, what I've done, if someone comes to me and it's like ultra low budget video, I tell them, you need to be flexible, you need to be realistic, and you need to be patient. Because all three of those things can be made better with more money. Right? Just being honest, like, you might not get to shoot in a huge ballroom. Maybe we'll have to use a shitty ballroom. You might not be able to block off a street and shoot it. We might have to do it in a street where maybe there's nobody around at like 1 a.m. Like, there's a lot of things that can be done, that can be worked around, but the artists have to realize, in order for us to do that, you have to have realistic expectations. Like, $500 isn't going to give you a Kendrick Lamar video. It might give you like 500 views, maybe. But like, so the other part of that is then what I also tell the artist, like, you also have to put the work in now as well. It can't just be us, because we'll do what we can within the budget and constraints, and we'll, push it as much as we can, but we expect the artist to fulfill their end. So if they're like, hey, we want like 20 extras for this scene, that should probably be your responsibility. Hey, we want to shoot at this location. I think we can get it for free. That should probably be your responsibility. Hey, I know someone, like, I want to get all these animations down on it, but I can't afford to hire anybody. Well, maybe you can find someone who's starting out and can do it for free because they're, learning or whatever. That should be your responsibility. Everything else that has to do with like camera, editing, like all the production end of it, let us do what we do and help us to alleviate all the other stuff, so that we're not spending all this time trying to sort things out that really, like, you know, you could be able to do quicker than we would
Just
through your network or community.
that sort of stuff, it just takes time, right? And so you're paying us with your time by doing stuff like that, by booking those locations and getting those extras. So that helps a lot too. Something else I find really helpful when I'm working with artists is I tell them, show me a video that you are inspired by or something you want to do similar, and then we watch it, and then I'll like pause it and I'll say how much each thing costs. Like, okay, well, see right here, okay, so there's probably two lights set up. So they probably got a lighting guy. They probably got this. There's like people in the background. This costs probably about this much money. I bet you this took half a day to shoot. I bet this took a whole day to shoot. This costs roughly around this much to hire those types of people. And then they start to realize like, oh, this like really stacks up really fast, because a lot of times you're not paying for just me. You're paying for like me and like a lighting guy and a camera guy and a gaff and a grip and, you know, a PA and all this stuff. And then you slowly realize how stuff adds up.
Yeah, I think the way Vince and I operate is if the budget isn't quite there, we have a point of view we want to flex, right? And that would be on. I have always tried to negotiate this, is that we get the creative control and believe in us too. That's how I'll pitch that, of course. And I'll say, you know, I believe in this creative to fit your group on your budget. And then also what Gabe had to say is that you, as artists, you got to wear other hats too and carry some weight, because if there's not enough budget, budget goes fast, you know, and fuck, it's... you blink and there's $1,000 gone, and I swear that's the case. And everyone here can say that. You know, you can even camera rental. If you want a specific camera, that's like $500 for a day. You know, if you really want, then I said, huh? And then even for a lens, you know, and that's you can do music videos on a iPhone, but really with video, especially, is what I learned, is you pay for what you get. Or you get what you pay.
And you get a music video that's shot on an iPhone.
Right, and that's just is what it is. But
Which could be good.
yeah, artists need to budget themselves as a business and figure what they have to spend. They need to know what they need and have first, and then come to us. I think that's the better. I found that's the better conversations to have. Your shit's on point, and you know what you want and what you have. And then you seek out who will fulfill your vision.
Yeah, I always say too, like we don't tell artists how to use your mic or how to mix a song or how to write. So let us do what we're good at, and we'll let you do what you're good at.
But then, based on everything we've been talking about, right, is meeting in the middle. Bring all the tools together. So I guess that leads to, I mean, what we're so beneficial to have being Alberta artists is grants. Being Canadian artists in general, we have grants. And a lot of us, actually, that's how we put food on our table sometimes. So with music videos, it's now becoming, with the networks have changed, a lot of people are seeing that as an outlet, that a lot of people are coming on, TELUS is coming on, you know, lots of people are offering these grants. So how do we go about approaching the grant system with artists? What sort of things do they need to know when they're approaching a production company or an artist or a director about going after a grant to do something together?
I feel like I hate talking about grants, just because grants are so exhausting to me. It's like you put in so much work, and then if you don't get it, you like don't want to be disappointed, but like 98% of the time, like you're not gonna get it. I just call Colleen. I'm like, hey, dude, help me. And then she comes over, and then we drink wine, and then we don't do any of the work, and then the next day we do the grant stuff. But I mean, when it comes to grants, like I feel like it's the artist's responsibility to get the grant and then approach me. Like I don't want to have to do any of that work. If you need me to like pitch the video, like I'll do like the storyboards and stuff, but that would mean that it would be like we were working together from the beginning and we both decided to write a grant. It's not like, hey, if I write a grant, will you do it if I get the grant? And I'd be like, yes. And like, here's the stuff for the grant. But other than that, like, I'm not doing any of the other work for it.
So you don't want them to call and say, hey, I want you to do a music video. Can you go find a grant?
Yeah, no. I mean, most people that are calling me are my friends anyway, so I'm always helping them regardless. But if it's just like a stranger, I'd be like, no, go find the grant, and then approach me with the grant. You know what I mean?
Well,
Is that bad?
No, that's their label's job or their manager's job is to fill out that grant and to help you with that. Or yeah, usually I'm working with their manager or their PR person or something like that. And fortunately, we are in a good spot right now in a weird way in Calgary in terms of like grants. Because when oil and gas went down, Calgary, like, they're trying so hard to diversify and get outside of the boom and bust cycle. Like, you can tell they're really investing a lot in the arts. And you can get funding on the municipal level, the provincial level, and the national level. Like, you should be hitting all of those things. Yeah, and I don't know. I got lost in my answer there.
Well, so would you, if there's all those assets to go after, you're saying though, let the artist should be the one who's kind of finding where to attack, and then you can come in and provide backup when they've got it ready? Is that what you, like?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Yeah.
We're an asset to help. I think, you know, if once you need storyboarding and you need a direction and you need to, like, the technical analysis part of the writing, we can handle that. But I think hunting for money is on the artist. Yeah, and I would.
Because if I was applying for grants, I would apply for grants for my short film and my documentaries that I want to make.
Exactly.
I think grants are dumb. I've never gotten a grant. I've applied for 3 of them. I've had 5 artists apply for grants. They've never got them. I think they're stupid. I get why they exist, but they make it so fucking difficult. And I just don't. I don't know if maybe I don't get it how it works, but most times when we've not got it, I'm like, let's just make the damn thing.
So but by that point, then you're already invested.
Yeah.
Like, if you're doing the grant together, it goes back to what we've been talking about. You're ready to put in yourself. What time is it? How much time we got? Oh, it's 1. Okay, so I guess we're getting pretty close. So maybe I'll just open it up for Q&A if there's anyone's got any specific questions.
So I ran into this issue with an artist. They hired me to produce their video, and halfway through, the guy kind of went crazy and decided to pull all the editing from us and found his own guys to edit it. So I said, so there was kind of like a release issue because he never paid what he was supposed to pay us. And so I went and talked to an IP lawyer, and basically he said the visual aspect, all the visual things that you've done as a visual creative, you own those assets, but they own the song. So essentially it's shared unless it's preemptively signed in some way that so-and-so owns it or so-and-so owns it. So from what I understand, what we went through is you both own it because one person owns the song. There's no video without a song, but there's also no song without the video in this case. So we kind of just walked away from it. It's hard to say. I think it's really up for debate, to be honest.
The filmmaker owns the video. The artist owns the music. We own the footage. If you're hiring me, I'm gonna shoot it all, and I'm gonna light it all, and I'm gonna edit it all. Like, that's all my work. The musician did all the work with the music and the producing and getting all that together, so they own that. If a label pays for it with grant money, and they pay me for it, and they put it on their YouTube channel, I still own that video. They can't use that video in any other way without our consent. If they wanted to, if they want to take the song and remix it or remaster it and mash it up with something, that's totally fine. If they want to do that with the video portion and make GIFs out of it, or do something with it, they need our permission because we own the video.
A good example of that recently is Sheck West didn't pay their video producer, so they decided to cut the video anyways and use their own music and like really weird like vocal things to make fun of but they use all the visuals and everything because they own it. Essentially also it goes to whoever paid for the video.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, we're essentially like contractors.
I'm going to jump a little bit. I think if you've put in the sweat equity and you haven't been paid out a full rate, I think it's just a general handshake deal of, hey, you've got equal stake in this. So if it's on being monetized, I think we've all kind of just jumped on board to be artists, to be able to say something about ourselves and contribute to the community. And we're usually probably coming on board to donate. Minimum music video in reality costs $50,000 minimum. That's like bare bones. And so no matter what, if you're giving us $100, we're for sure donating over 40 grand of our time. So we're usually coming on board because we love the music and love the artist. So if it's being monetized on YouTube and things like that, we want to see that musician succeed. But if all of a sudden they hire a new director when they have $1 million deal, then we'll probably come knock on the door and be saying, what's up? Because we've given so much.
Because you got 2.5 million views because of the video. So if you get 2.5 million views, I mean, it stands to reason that they like the video and the artist, and those people should collaborate again.
I was working on a project once, and like, I had been working on it for some time now, and it was more like, kind of I was doing a favor for this person because they weren't paying me very much, and I wasn't like super stoked on it, and this is how I learned this. But then halfway through, they were like, yeah, I'm looking at other artists, and I was like, what? Like, I'm already doing the work. And then he wanted me to send him the stuff, and I was like, fuck you. I'm not sending you shit. And I didn't give him his money back because I was like, you just wasted so much of my time. Like, don't waste my time is what I'm getting at. But yeah, I was like so cutthroat. I was like, block.
But again, it goes on with how we open up this whole conversation. We're coming in to do music videos because we love each other. Exactly. High tides rise all ships. Right? If the musician succeeds, we succeed as artists, and then it'll just be a cyclical thing. If you end up making a feature film, which is mainly the reason why a lot of people will pick up a camera or become a filmmaker or a storyteller in general, is to tell large stories, guess who's going to get a phone call to do the score or be licensed? We're all in this together, right? It's like, let's find a midway. So yeah, back to it's a big question right now with YouTube. YouTube being a monetization thing, we want that artist to succeed. If they're making $1 million from that video, you're like, heck yeah, great. Now you can eat. Because I know as a musician, you're having a hard time doing that. Like, we're all doing it together. So, yeah, exactly. So let's celebrate. Any other questions out here?
But it still doesn't make sense. It's like the publishing to YouTube needs to be more robust. Like, it shouldn't be dependent on like a handshake deal and doing solid, you know? Like, it should just be like, just like the songs getting paid out, the visual artist or the production company producing the video gets paid out.
This is why we're broke, brother.
Yeah. So Mark's saying that it should be equal, especially when it comes to YouTube. That the visual is it's being watched, but I think what you said is like, I think that has to be a preemptive contract, right? So because it's a fingers crossed, lightning in a bottle thing.
And let's be honest, like, it's pretty rare to hit that 1 million view mark these days, you know. And yeah, and I gotta say, like, if you're making something and you're with an artist that like has a banging track, like, and you think that it might, like, if there's a part of you just like, man, this could be really big, you should probably sign that contract. Just It's on us as much as it is on you.
It's also quite transparent. As a videographer, you can go and look at the video and see that it's been.
Yeah.
And for us, on our, at least as indie artists publishing our own stuff, like this, with the app integration now, like the stats are right there. Like you made $10 this month for YouTube. You're like, yeah. Right? It's like it's not hidden as much as it used to be from us. So it just seems like we got to be fair with each other.
I wanted to bring up this earlier. We're in a kind of a different world in Calgary in particular, especially when it comes to filmmakers. Not a lot of us have agents. Not a lot of us are really part of a production company model in terms of you phone that company and you're going to get a hold of producer. You're usually talking to the directors direct. So I just wanted to bring that up to you guys is how does that relationship change to artist if it's artist to artist or if it's artist to label / manager, or do you have a producer? Like how do you like to work it in terms of being able to cover everyone's bases legally too, right? Because a lot of that has to do with if the artist to artist is going to be a different thing legally than agent to agent. So is there anything that changes between artist to artist for you versus artist to manager or artist to label?
So you're talking about like a scope of work, like
Yeah, and just
like
how you approach that communication.
Yeah, I think like paper trail. Do you know what I mean? Like this is every time, but just a simple. Yeah. I think I have a manager that I hired. He's a friend of mine, but we make sure that we dumb it down for both parties so that it's all in writing and it's in point form, and we both sign it. And regardless of who it is, because I've done agency work with photography, and that's same plain Jane. Everything is point out. This is the delivery date. This is how many photos you get. This is the format that we wanted it, and that's what I was like. Why not carry that into these personal projects or whatever they may be. Thing.
Yeah, it's just good business management. When to what you're asking, it's just documentation, and oftentimes I'll have like a meeting with an artist one-on-one, and then I send a follow-up email and say, okay, as per discussed, we're gonna do this blank X, Y, and Z, and then written record and cover your ass.
I just find it's easier when you know exactly in paper writing what it is that you need to be doing. Like it's almost like a checklist sometimes where you're just like, this is what you need. Like when I do design work, for instance, with artists, I'm like, okay, I'm like gonna do 3 t-shirts for you and like an album cover, and each one has like a date and like the amount of money it's gonna be, and it's just easier, and then it's agreed upon, you know. So someone's not like, oh, you said you were gonna make me like 6 more stickers, and I was like, nah, bitch, I did not. It's right there. So like that's how I feel about it. But music videos are kind of different from me. Like I'm like, I'll make it. Hopefully it'll work out. Either it'll be great or it'll be awful. But this is what you're getting, and it's gonna be a great time.
I think the difference between working with the artist and working with a label is just you put on a different hat. I think with an artist, you put on your director hat. With a label, you put on your producer hat. I think that's all it comes down to.
So you're talking more numbers, you're talking legalities, but when you're talking artist to artist, you can talk art. You can talk about what you're bringing to the table.
You just talk about money sooner.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I think it varies.
Yeah.
I've gone from concept to shooting to post like in a month, but I've also gone from concept to shooting to post in a year. So I think it just all depends on the artist and what their expectation of you is and what my expectation of them is. Like, I think it's different. But yeah, I think it's reasonable to say like 1 to 3 months is like kind of average timeline.
I feel as a filmmaker I get asked questions like that pretty frequently, and then the frustrating answer I always have to give is it depends. Just depends. Like, depends what you want. What are you looking for? Yeah, what is your budget? What's my timeline looking like? And yeah, it's kind of like asking how long is a piece of string, right? Like, it depends. It's a very, very unsatisfying answer. Very unsatisfying answer, but that's what it is. You just got to know what you want.
I think, like, within the realm of the work that I'm making, I can make a music video in a day if I wanted to, but you have to understand that this is going to be really experimental and wacky, and I might need you to stand in front of a green screen for a bit. But like I can figure something out. Like, at the end of the day, when there's deadlines, it's all about the amount of time you commit yourself to doing it. So it's like if I work on your project 3 days this week and no days next week, it's like obviously not gonna look as good if I worked on it every single day. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think like it's harder for film because you have to like take time out of your day and like go somewhere and shoot it, where I just need to like roll out of bed and decide that I can just start working on it and not watch Netflix or something like that. Oh, sorry.
Something I've heard often, I don't know if musicians say this or other people say this, but it's like quality, money, and time, pick two. And yeah, so that's what it is. That's what it boils down to.
So I guess it was, as we start to slowly wrap up, I'll just give the Cole's notes. It was like, basically what we've learned today is either party should be super prepared. If you're going to be approaching a director as a musician to do a music video, know what song, know your deadlines, know what your marketing strategy is, know where you're going with it, and have a dollar amount in mind and get talking about that right away. Then from your side is be prepared to compromise, be prepared to meet in the middle, tell the artist's story, but be able to bring your own story to it and be able to flex on either way. So my last question for everybody, and this is, I ask this of a lot of artists because it's really hard what we all do, musician or filmmaker, because there's not a lot of money in this and we're all trying to make it work, is why keep doing it? It really sucks sometimes. So why do you still be an artist every single day?
Oh my God, help me. 'Cause it's so fun. You have to love what you're doing. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm going crazy because I'm just like at home painting or like hour 18 in the studio and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen the sun and there is no sun. It's not up or down. Where am I? You start to get a little crazy, but why I keep doing it, I don't think that it's a conscious choice. I think it just is the way that I am. You know, like I've been doing anything creative since I was like in probably my mom's womb. It's probably like, ooh, I can make something out of this.
Santa. I think we do it to create, and we do it as an outlet. But we also do it because, you know, like if you're not going to fucking do work, you're not going to get anywhere. If you're not going to do it, you can just sit on a couch and bitch why dreams maybe weren't attained or you leveled up. I don't want to speak so broad like that, but that's all I know is coming from a business background is that you get what you put in, and that is life, generalized. And it's hard as fuck sometimes. I see people who I know are in tough positions at home or mentally or whatever, but they show up and they go and do their thing and they put on that face and they just grind it up because that's the only way to get to where you want to be. And money isn't what we're in this for. So whatever it may be, I think that's, I'm just going to hustle.
Yeah. The answer is like, why do you make music? Just because I want to create. Where does that come from? That's a question that's old as time, right? And I know myself when I'm working on something and I get so into the details and I am, looking at the pixels and I am like calibrating the reds and the highlights and stuff like that, and I'm getting so into it. And then time flies by and like I'm having fun. That's what I like to do. That's why I do it.
I think all my life I've had an insane ego. And so I think creative arts and music videos and just being a filmmaker forces me to not have an ego, but it allows my work to have an ego. So, yeah.
You were able to tell your story a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's easy for me to be like, oh, yeah, I get to do all this, blah, 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 but it has nothing, it doesn't mean anything if your work doesn't speak for itself.
Great. Thank you all so much for hanging out. If you have more questions, we're going to hang out. But afternoon showcase is happening at Broken City. Thank you all so much.